Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive into keeping your nectar collector clean.
Right on.
You want the best possible experience with your concentrates, right? Flavor smoothness, the whole nine yards.
Yeah,
Well, a clean nectar collector is the absolute key.
for sure.
We're talking tastier hits a device that lasts longer, and of
Yeah.
course, keeping things healthy.
That's right. You see, over time, sticky residue builds up in your nectar collector.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it's not just unsightly. It actually affects the way your concentrates taste and even how well the device functions.
Interesting.
Think about those times you've taken a hit and it felt harsh or the flavor seemed a bit off.
Yeah, I've definitely had those moments where I thought something was wrong with the concentrate itself, but maybe it was just a dirty nectar collector.
Could be.
So we're talking about more than just aesthetics here.
Exactly. That residue can actually harbor bacteria, which is definitely not something you want to be inhaling.
Ew, no thanks.
So regular cleaning isn't just about flavor and performance. It's
yeah.
about your health, too.
Okay, I'm sold. A clean nectar collector is a must.
It really is.
But what's the best way to go about it?
Yeah.
Do I need some fancy, expensive cleaning kit?
Not at all. You'd be surprised how simple the cleaning process actually is.
Okay, that's good to hear.
All you really need are some everyday items.
Okay, cool.
Isopropyl alcohol.
Okay,
The higher the percentage, the better.
gotcha.
Some cotton swabs, paper towels, and warm water.
Makes sense.
And if you want to get into those hard-to-reach spots,
Yeah.
a small brush or pipe cleaner can be helpful.
So nothing too complicated or intimidating?
Nope.
I can handle that. What's the first step?
The most important thing is to make sure your nectar collector is completely disassembled.
Right.
You want to separate the mouthpiece, the tip, any other removable parts.
Gotcha.
Basically, anything that can come apart should come apart.
Got it. Take it all apart. What's next?
Now it's time for the isopropyl alcohol to work its magic.
Okay.
Grab a container, fill it with the alcohol, and submerge all those disassembled parts. Let them soak for about 30 minutes. And while that's happening, you can gather your other cleaning tools, your cotton swabs, paper towels, and that brush or pipe cleaner if you have one.
Okay, so we're letting the isopropyl alcohol loosen up all that residue.
Mm.
But why isopropyl alcohol specifically? Is it better than other cleaning agents?
It really is the gold standard for cleaning nectar collectors.
Okay.
It's powerful enough to dissolve that sticky residue, but gentle enough that it won't damage the materials of your device.
I see.
Plus, it evaporates quickly, so you don't have to worry about any lingering smells or flavors.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So the parts have been soaking for about 30 minutes. What now?
Now comes the scrubbing.
The fun part.
This is where you really get to see the isopropyl alcohol working its magic. Take those cotton swabs and gently scrub away any remaining residue. That soaking should have loosened everything up.
Yeah.
But those cotton swabs are great for getting into all those little nooks and crannies.
Right.
If you have a brush or pipe cleaner, those can be super helpful for those really tight spots.
So we're making sure every part of the nectar collector is spotless.
You got it. And this is where I see people make the most common cleaning mistake.
Oh, what's that?
They don't rinse thoroughly enough.
Uh-oh.
This step is absolutely crucial. After you've scrubbed everything you need to rinse every single part thoroughly with warm water.
Okay.
And when I say thoroughly, I mean it.
Huh. All right.
You don't want any trace of isopropyl alcohol or residue left behind because that's going to affect the flavor of your next dab.
I can only imagine getting a mouthful of isopropyl alcohol would be pretty unpleasant.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So rinsing is key. What about drying?
Just as important. Make absolutely sure every single part is bone dry before you put your nectar collector back together.
Okay.
Any leftover moisture can trap bacteria and even lead to mold growth, which we definitely want to avoid.
Ew, yeah, no mold.
Plus, water droplets can interfere with the airflow so you won't get that smooth, flavorful hit you're looking for.
So air drying is the way to go.
Absolutely. Just lay those parts out on a clean towel and let them air dry completely. It might take a bit of time, but it's worth it to ensure your nectar collector is perfectly clean and ready for your next dab.
Okay, so we've covered the whole cleaning process.
We have.
Disassembling, soaking in isopropyl alcohol, scrubbing, rinsing, and drying. Sounds pretty straightforward.
It is.
But how often do you need to go through this whole routine? Is it a daily thing, a weekly thing?
That's a great question, and it really depends on how often you use your nectar collector.
Okay, I could see that.
Let's break it down for different types of users, starting with those who dab daily.
All right, let's talk about those daily dabbers. What's the recommended cleaning schedule for them?
For someone who's using their nectar collector every day, I'd say aim for cleaning it every 5 to 10 uses or every few days.
Okay.
It's all about preventing that buildup from getting out of control. The more often you clean, the easier each cleaning session will be.
That makes sense. So for those daily dabbers out there, keeping things clean and preventing that residue buildup is key. What about folks who enjoy their concentrates on a more, let's say, weekly basis? What's the best practice for them?
Ideally after each use.
Really?
It might sound like a bit more effort, but trust me, it makes a huge difference in the long run. When you clean after each use, you're preventing that residue from hardening and becoming more difficult to remove.
Oh, okay.
Plus, it ensures that every single dab is as flavorful and enjoyable as possible.
So a little bit of maintenance goes a long way.
Yeah.
And for those who are more occasional dabbers, breaking out the nectar collector every once in a while.
For those folks, cleaning as needed based on how the nectar collector is performing is a good rule of thumb.
Right.
If you start noticing that it's getting clogged, the airflow is restricted, or the flavor is off, that's a pretty clear sign that it's time for a good clean.
It's like your nectar collector's telling you, hey, it's time for a spa day. Now, we've talked a lot about isopropyl alcohol, but I know some people are looking for more natural alternatives. What are their options?
That's a great point. Isopropyl alcohol is definitely effective and safe for most nectar collectors, but there are alternatives out there.
Good to know.
One of the most popular natural options is a mixture of vinegar and warm water.
Vinegar? Huh, interesting.
It's biodegradable, readily available, and pretty inexpensive.
Good old vinegar, always coming to the rescue. Are there any downsides to using vinegar compared to isopropyl alcohol?
It might require a bit more elbow grease to get everything sparkling clean.
Ah, I see.
Vinegar isn't quite as potent as isopropyl alcohol, so you might need to scrub a bit harder or soak the parts for a longer period of time.
So a little extra effort, but a good option for those who prefer a more natural approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen those specialized cleaning kits for smoking accessories. Are those worth considering for nectar collectors?
They can be a convenient option, especially if they come with brushes designed for nectar collectors.
Right.
Some of those kits also include cleaning solutions that are specifically formulated for removing resin and residue from glass.
So potentially pricier, but more convenient. No matter which cleaning method you choose, is there anything you absolutely must do after using any cleaning solution?
This is super important.
Okay, hit me with it.
Rinse, rinse, rinse.
Got it.
Thoroughly rinsing with warm water after using any cleaning solution is essential. It ensures that there are no lingering residues that could affect the flavor of your dabs or potentially be harmful.
I bet those cleaning solutions don't taste too great. Rinsing is definitely key. Now, I know we've covered the basic cleaning process, but there are always those little questions that pop up.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's dive into some frequently asked questions about nectar collector cleaning. First up, what do you do if you've let things slide a bit and you're dealing with some really stubborn caked-on residue? Any tips for tackling that nightmare?
We've all been there.
Ha, I know I have.
Don't worry, even the most neglected nectar collector can be brought back to life. For that really stubborn residue, the key is patience and a little extra effort. Start by extending the soaking time in isopropyl alcohol. Instead of 30 minutes, let those parts soak for an hour, or even overnight if needed.
So we're giving the alcohol more time to work its magic and break down that stubborn gunk.
Exactly. And after that extended soak, you'll want to put in some extra scrubbing time with those cotton swabs and your brush or pipe cleaner. You might need to apply a bit more pressure, but remember to be gentle and avoid scratching the glass.
Okay, patience and persistence are key. Now, another common question. Can you reuse isopropyl alcohol for multiple cleaning sessions? Or do you need a fresh batch every time?
You can definitely reuse isopropyl alcohol a few times, but keep an eye on the color. As you clean your nectar collector, the alcohol will start to turn a murky brown color.
Yeah, it's like it's absorbing all that nasty residue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once the alcohol gets too discolored, it's a sign that it's no longer as effective at breaking down that gunk. So time for a fresh batch. Don't try to push it too far. Fresh isopropyl alcohol is key to a truly clean nectar collector.
Okay, so pay attention to the color of your isopropyl alcohol, and when in doubt, refresh.
Hey.
Now, this next question is one I've definitely wondered about myself. Can you use boiling water to clean a nectar collector? It seems like the heat would really help loosen up that residue.
While the idea might seem tempting, boiling water is generally not recommended for cleaning nectar collectors.
Okay.
Most nectar collectors are made of glass or silicone, and sudden extreme temperature changes can cause them to crack or break.
That makes sense. I've definitely had glasses crack from pouring boiling water into them.
It's best to stick with warm water and isopropyl alcohol for a safe and effective clean.
Sticking with the temperature theme, another common question is whether you can use a hairdryer to dry your nectar collector after cleaning. Is that a good idea or a recipe for disaster?
Another tempting but not recommended idea. Using a hairdryer can actually introduce dust and debris into your freshly cleaned nectar collector, which defeats the purpose of cleaning it in the first place.
Right.
And the heat from the hairdryer could potentially damage the delicate materials.
So air drying is still the best and safest method.
Absolutely. Patience is key when it comes to cleaning your nectar collector.
Now, shifting gears a bit, I know some people are concerned about the environmental impact of using isopropyl alcohol. Are there any eco-friendly cleaning options for nectar collectors?
This is where that vinegar and warm water solution really shines. It's a natural, biodegradable alternative to isopropyl alcohol, and it's just as effective at removing residue.
Plus, vinegar is readily available and pretty inexpensive.
Exactly. And if you're looking for other eco-friendly options, there are some specialized cleaning solutions on the market that are made with plant-based ingredients and are designed to be biodegradable.
So do your research, explore those options, and find a cleaning method that aligns with your values. Now, this next question is an important one. What should you do if you accidentally get isopropyl alcohol in your mouth while cleaning your nectar collector?
It's definitely not a pleasant experience, but don't panic. The most important thing is to rinse your mouth out thoroughly with water immediately.
Like a lot of water, right? We want to get rid of every trace of that alcohol.
Exactly. And if you happen to swallow any isopropyl alcohol, it's best to contact poison control just to be safe.
Right.
They can provide guidance and reassurance, and they'll let you know if you need to take any further steps.
Always better to be safe than sorry. Now, this last question is less about cleaning and more about storage. How should you store your nectar collector when it's not in use? Does it matter?
Storing your nectar collector properly is an important part of maintaining its cleanliness and preventing any damage. Ideally, store it in an upright position, like in a cup or a specialized stand.
That makes sense. It keeps any residue from pooling in the tip or mouthpiece.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you're storing it for an extended period, consider placing it in a sealed container or bag to keep out dust and debris. This will help keep your nectar collector clean and ready to use whenever you are. And always store your nectar collector in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight or heat sources.
All right, those are some great tips for keeping your nectar collector clean, safe, and in tip-top shape. Before we move on to part 3, I think it's worth emphasizing one point that's been woven throughout our conversation. A little effort goes a long way.
For sure.
Yes, cleaning your nectar collector takes some time and attention, but the payoff is significant.
Absolutely. It's an investment in your enjoyment and well-being.
Think about it. Smoother hits, tastier, concentrates a healthier experience overall, and a device that lasts longer. It's a win-win. All right, we've covered the fundamentals of nectar collector cleaning, answered some of those burning questions, and now it's time for the really fun part, those bonus tips and tricks that can take your cleaning game to the next level.
Think of these as the insider secrets that the pros use to keep their nectar collectors in pristine condition. Little hacks that can make the cleaning process even easier and more effective.
I'm all about making things easier, so hit me with those pro tips.
Let's start with a simple but often overlooked trick, warming up your nectar collector slightly before cleaning.
And how do we do that safely? I'm assuming we're not using a torch here.
No torch needed. Just hold the nectar collector under warm running water for a few seconds. It doesn't need to be hot, just warm to the touch. This gentle warmth will help loosen up the residue and make it easier for the isopropyl alcohol to penetrate and do its job.
So we're giving the cleaning solution a head start.
Exactly. Now here's another tip for tackling those stubborn, sticky spots agitation. After you've submerged your nectar collector parts in isopropyl alcohol, don't just let them sit there passively. Give the container a gentle shake or swirl every few minutes.
So we're actively encouraging the cleaning action. It's like giving those residue molecules a little nudge to detach and dissolve.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about those tiny, hard-to-reach areas, those little air holes in the tip, for example. Those can be tricky to clean, but I've got a simple solution for you, a toothpick.
A toothpick? That's brilliant! I would have never thought of that.
It's a surprisingly effective tool. Just dip the toothpick in isopropyl alcohol and gently use it to dislodge any residue that's clinging to those tight spots. You'll be amazed at how much gunk you can remove with this simple technique.
That's going in my cleaning arsenal for sure. I always struggle with those tiny areas. Now, I've heard that salt can be a secret weapon for cleaning smoking devices. Does that apply to nectar collectors as well?
Absolutely. Coarse salt is a fantastic natural abrasive. Add a tablespoon or two to your container of isopropyl alcohol along with your nectar collector parts. As the parts soak, the salt will gently scrub away those stubborn resin deposits, making your cleaning process even more effective.
So it's like a built-in scrubbing action. I love it.
Now, here's a tip for being both resourceful and eco-conscious.
Yeah?
Don't throw away that used isopropyl alcohol just yet.
No. What else can we do with it?
After you finish cleaning your nectar collector, pour that used alcohol into a separate container and save it. It might not be potent enough for heavily soiled nectar collector parts, but it's perfect for cleaning other glass pieces, tools, or even jewelry.
That's a great way to reduce waste and get the most out of your cleaning supplies. Okay, any final bonus tips before we wrap up this deep dive?
Here's a preventative measure that can actually reduce the amount of residue that builds up on your nectar collector in the first place. Use a carb cap when you're dabbing.
For those who might not be familiar, what exactly is a carb cap?
It's a small accessory that fits over the tip of your nectar collector. Carb caps come in various designs, but their main function is to regulate airflow and create a more controlled dabbing experience.
So how does a carb cap help with keeping things clean?
By regulating the airflow, a carb cap helps vaporize your concentrates more efficiently, which means less residue splattering onto the tip of your nectar collector. It's like a little shield protecting your device from those sticky splatters.
That makes a lot of sense. And the less residue buildup you have, the easier and faster your cleaning sessions will be.
Exactly. It's all about those preventative measures.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From the basic cleaning process to those pro tips and tricks, I feel like I've learned so much.
I hope so. Remember, a clean nectar collector means a more enjoyable, flavorful, and healthier dabbing experience. It's worth taking the time to keep things clean.
Absolutely. It's all about maximizing those delicious, smooth dabs. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of nectar collector cleaning. We'll see you next time.